Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 37, titled Shadows Gone, adapts just under 4.5 chapters worth of manga material, with very little anime only additions. This latest episode adapts material from chapter 649 to 654. The episode begins with a flashback sequence from chapter 653, and then the first longer half of the episode adapts the most material, covering content up to the end of chapter 652. Here we have the reveal of Nanao's Zanpakuto, the Shinken Hakyoken, and the explanation of Shunsui's backstory, which reveals details about his older brother and Nanao's mother. The second half of the episode is much shorter, as the rest of chapter 653 is adapted, followed by the first few pages of chapter 654. Now definitely stick around until the end of the video, as I will be explaining all of the rearranged scenes in this week's episode of Bleach, revealing how the anime has decided to adapt the manga content for this latest episode. We have quite a lot to discuss here, so let's dive into the manga versus anime analysis of this all new episode. Lastly, I will be refraining from talking about scenes which are one-to-one adaptations from the manga, and I'll solely be focusing on what has been cut, changed, and added to the anime. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Holo Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. So the episode begins before the opening song with a couple of scenes that are adapted. The first is from the beginning of chapter 653, and this is a flashback that has been rearranged to the start of the episode. This is where Shunsui's older brother gifts Nanao's mother those hairpins, and she asks for him to keep one of the hairpins with him. Here we learn about Shunsui's relationship with his older brother, and how it had improved after Shunsui's older brother had married Nanao's mother. Following this flashback, we cut straight back to the end of chapter 649 as page 16 is adapted, where the light of Lil Barrow fires through Shunsui's gut. Then following this, we cut to the opening song. After the opening, we begin with another flashback scene which has been rearranged, and this is from the start of chapter 651, and it's a scene where a young Shunsui is napping as he is awoken by Nanao's mother. Following this, the final page of chapter 649 is adapted, where Lil yells out that a Shinigami's Bankai is not enough to kill the messenger of God. Then chapter 650 is adapted, when Shunsui pretty much gives up here as he admits that he cannot do anything else if his Bankai hasn't worked against Lil. He decides to fall asleep, but he is awoken by Nanao. Now, while Nanao is waking up Shunsui, it links back to her mother, as we initially hear the voice of Nanao's mother calling him to wake up, as we then hear Nanao requesting for her captain to wake up. Now, this was a really nice small addition to the anime, which links back to Shunsui's backstory and that flashback that we had just seen moments ago. The rest of chapter 650 is very faithfully adapted from the manga, as material from chapter 650 ends at the point where Shunsui summons Kyokotsu, after Nanao requests for him to release her Zanpakuto. So material from chapter 651 is adapted from page 3, and this is where Lil Barrow is looking for where Shunsui and Nanao have gone. Again, everything is very faithfully adapted, from the explanation of the Issei family curse and how Nanao's mother had wanted to lift the curse. Now, material from page 15 of chapter 651 is slightly expanded within the anime, as we have some anime exclusive visuals of the Issei clan rituals. This provides more context to Shunsui's description of how the Shinken Hakyoken is a single Zanpakuto which is inherited by the head of the Issei clan from generation to generation. So content from chapter 651 ends when Nanao is revealed to be wielding the Shinken Hakyoken. We then have chapter 652, which once again is very faithfully adapted into the anime, and while we learn details about Nanao's backstory, the content from page 8 of chapter 652 is slightly expanded, as we have anime exclusive visuals revealing Nanao's proficiency in Kido, which is another really nice addition to the episode. Material from chapter 652 is adapted all the way up until the end, where Shunsui arrives behind Nanao to support her. Following this, we have the mid-cards for this week, and the first is focusing on Katen Kyokotsu, revealing that of course it's the Zanpakuto wielded by Shunsui, and it allows him to transform children's games into reality, and he enforces the rules of these games on himself and his opponent. The second title card focuses on the Shinken Hakyoken, as it describes it to be a sacred Zanpakuto passed down through the Issei clan. It is said to possess the unique ability to reflect the light of God. The mid-card emphasizes that the Shinken Hakyoken cannot directly cut or harm an opponent, and its main use is for rituals which are dedicated to the gods. We then begin the second, shorter half of the episode as material from chapter 653 begins to be adapted. This is where Ninao is pushed back and we see her leg being injured as Shunsui appears behind her to support her to reflect Lil Barrow's trumpet attack. So after Lil Barrow's attack is deflected and he breaks down, dispersing into these fragments of light, content from chapter 653 pretty much ends. And then the first 5 pages of chapter 654 are adapted into the episode, and this is up until a point where Shunsui collapses and he tells Ninao that maybe they should take a break before they progress any further. And yeah, there is no post-credit scene for this week's episode, as we yet again have another episode that is very faithful to the manga. I would even go as far as to say that this episode is literally a panel for panel adaptation, aside from those minor anime exclusive scenes which expand upon some of the details revealed in the manga. And also those flashback scenes from chapter 653 at the start of the episode before the opening, and then the flashback from chapter 651 which was rearranged to appear right after the opening song. So it's just those 2 flashbacks that were rearranged, but aside from that, the episode had just adapted content from chapter 649 to 654 in chronological order. So yeah, there is no post-credit scene for this week's episode, but the title for episode 38 is revealed to be Friend, and we do have a poem centered around Basby at the end. So that was the 11th episode of Core 3. So I cannot believe that we only have 2 more weeks of Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episodes before the wait begins for the 4th and final part of the anime. Time really has flown by, and it feels like yesterday that Core 3 had premiered, with that opening episode showing us the defeat of Ichibei. Now in previous cores, at this point we usually would have had a recap episode, and as a season finale we would have ended up having 2 episodes of Bleach released instead of 1. Because we didn't have a recap, some people have been speculating that we only have 2 more episodes of Core 3, thus making it 13 episodes total. But I'd spoken about this at the end of my review for episode 27, that it's very likely that Core 3 is going to have 14 episodes. This was based off of leaks from a Russian streaming site which listed 14 episodes for Core 3, and because the last episode of Core 2 was incomplete, which is why we had that 10-minute con segment for the second half. This had led to half of the first episode of Core 3 being a recap of Core 2's finale, which had meant that there was 1 episode of runtime that we ended up losing. This has been rectified now, as Core 3 will have 14 episodes, so we have 3 more episodes to look forward to. Next week's episode again is titled Friend, which is named after volume 70 of the manga. So from chapter 654 we are going to be backtracking to content from chapter 630 to 634, as the Basby vs Hashward fight is going to be adapted into the anime next. Also, some of you have rightfully pointed out in the comments that Kubo on his fan club has mentioned the voice performances of Yoruichi and Askin, which leads me to believe that Core 3 will show us the early portions of the fight against Askin, and we may even be able to see Yoruichi's God of Thunder form. Before that, I do want the anime to expand upon Basby and Hashwald's fight. I'd love to see their backstory expanded upon so that we can learn more about the formation of the Sternritter and Yuhobak's conquering of Quincy territory. For now, we have reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What did you think about this week's episode of Bleach? Are you satisfied with the conclusion of Shunsui and Nanao vs Lil? Did you like how the flashback scenes were adapted, revealing the history of Nanao's mother and Shunsui's past? And what did you think about the insane reveal of the Shinken Hakyoken? I look forward to reading all of your thoughts in the comments. Lastly, thank you for making it to the end of the video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel because I will be back next week for my review and manga vs anime breakdown of the highly anticipated Basby vs Hashward fight in episode 38 titled Friend. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.